Elijah was notoriously in need of nourishment. In the first book of Kings, God had to intervene miraculously on 3 separate occasions to make sure that the prophet has enough sustenance to fulfill his mission. In chapter 17, during the time of great drought and famine, God dispatched ravens with bread and meat twice every day to feed Elijah. Several verses later, God sent the prophet to a poor widow in the town of Zarephath. Like everyone else in that region, she was barely making ends meet, not knowing where will her next meal come from. However, because she was obliged by the Middle Eastern law of hospitality, she offered to prepare a simple meal from the very last handful of flour and the last few drops of oil from her almost empty jug. With an amazing stoicism, she declared, "We will eat this simple and humble supper, and then you, my son, and I will all die of starvation." But God intervened, and every morning the jar of flour was replenished, and the jug of olive oil was refilled. After Elijah's defeat of the prophets of Baal, when he called down fire from heaven, the drought ended. Rain fell, but Elijah had to flee from the evil queen Jezebel, who vowed to kill him. That is where we meet the prophet in today's first reading. Elijah is tired of hiding and running away. He is physically and spiritually and mentally exhausted, so he gives up on his life. He goes out into the desert. At sunset, he lies down under a broom tree, which is more like a shrub than a tree. And knowing that the cold desert night will cause him to freeze to death, prays to God, "It is enough. Now take away my life." Apparently, God does not subscribe to the third time a charm rule, and once again provides Elijah with bread and water, this time delivered not by ravens or widows, but by an angel herself. "You've got to eat something." My grandmother used to say that every time she saw me. Even though I was never a skinny child, every time I left my grandparents' place, I was just a bit more round. My grandmother never finished high school, and she lived a simple life in the middle of the woods with her forest ranger husband. And she demonstrated her love with food. She cooked, baked, and made preserves, firmly believing that you need to eat something when you are sad or happy, excited or depressed. And so it's not a coincidence, in my opinion, that Jesus chose bread and wine to be the means of his presence with us. He became the bread of life because he knew that we've got to eat something. Like my grandmother, Jesus knows that the way to one's spiritual heart is through their spiritual stomach. When we struggle with serious challenges, like the prophet Elijah, God knows that we've got to eat something. When we are fed up and burnt out, God knows that we've got to eat something. When our enemies are set on destroying us, God knows that we've got to eat something. And even when everything in our life is just fine, God knows that we've got to eat something when our life is good. God knows that we've got to eat something before "I am hungry" becomes "I am hangry." At various moments of every day, God is sending divine ravens and angels to feed you. When you stick your face out to the sun and let the rays bathe you in light and warmth, it is God feeding your soul. When you feel an urge to open the Bible and read for a moment or two, it is God feeding your soul. When you hear that piece of music on the radio that just lifts your soul and takes you up to the threshold of heaven, it is God feeding your soul. When you see your plants grow and bloom, it is God feeding your soul. When your pet rests their head on your lap and looks at you with unconditional love, it is God feeding your soul. And when the communion bread rests in the palm of your hand, it is God feeding your soul. Do not go through life spiritually hungry and hangry. You've got to eat something. Amen. Thank you, friends, for accompanying me on this spiritual journey. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to click on the like symbol, subscribe to this channel, and perhaps tell your friends and neighbors about this funny Polish preacher with a thick accent. Thank you so much, and God bless.